So today, what we are going to talk about is kind of like the mindset and energetic side of making money. Obviously, I titled this Receiving a Million because that's what occurred to us this year, or occurred for us this year. But for any of you watching, it's not like it's just about that. It's like whatever works for you. Hey, Leslie, and whatever your goals are. Hey, Ovi, thank you for being here. Oh, yeah, first time. Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. So apply this to yourself and where you're at. This isn't like you need to create $1 million, in the next minute kind of thing. This is just, here's what I see really, really making the difference that has gone into this, because I think so much of making more and more money in your business is energetic and mindset, right? Like the strategy gets easier and easier. The other pieces that come with it are sometimes the hardest, I think, especially letting yourself receive at a certain level, all of those kind of things. So that's what I really want to dive into today and give you guys a really clear look at. But yeah, it's been a really big year for us. I think obviously there's still a few days left in the year, but I think we're at about like almost 1.1 million, maybe like 1,050,000 or something like that, right? But we've definitely crossed that for this year. And oh, thank you, Elisa. Like I have dinner with a girlfriend later, and I was like trying different things on to see what was actually going to fit my bump now. And I really liked this. So I was like, oh, I'm leaving this on for my live. So I'm glad you like it. It was worth leaving it on. Hey, Janet. Yeah, so that's where we're at for this year. And obviously that's been so cool for a lot of reasons. I think obviously doing it through the partnership model has been really, really something special to us. I think doing it when I've been pregnant for half this year. I've been pregnant since July. So literally half this year is pretty cool to bring in our first 7-figure year with that. But again, so much of it was the mindset and energetic side of it. A lot of what we did this year was very similar to what we've done, if not almost exactly the same in previous years. The two things that we did different this year, where I said I did that Million Her Forum, which was just a thing I did in, I think, Feb, March, and April, Feb, March, April, whatever. It was very early on in the year. And then I did a few in-person VIP days, and that's really it. So basically all the same stuff is what got us here. And so I just want to talk about how this piece of it is really what got us here, because I think that that's really, really important to say. Mandy says, every time I hit an income level, my energy falls and I drop down again. Been a roller coaster this year. Okay, cool. That's, I didn't mean cool, like we want that to happen. I mean, cool. Thank you for sharing. And we'll talk about that too, but I appreciate you being really transparent, because I think that happens for a lot of people. I think we all react to receiving large sums of money in different ways. And that's why I think it's so important to keep having these conversations, because I feel like what most of the industry says is it's just the strategy. If you just figure out the right strategy, you'll get it. And I think strategy is really important. I feel like, we've worked ours for a really long time, and I'm really proud of it. And I really believe that's a piece, obviously, mindset, strategy, execution, right? But so much of the ability to maintain it, not feel weird about it, deal with the mental hurdles that come with it, deal with the pressure that can come with it, the responsibility that can come with it, is such a mind game, right? And such an energetic game. And it's so important that we recognize that, because if not, what we can do is spend so much time jumping from strategy to strategy to strategy, right? Thinking if I just find the right one, then it'll click, or then I won't feel weird about this, or then it'll feel good to receive. And that's pretty much never the case. And so, yeah, that's just normal, I think, for us to bump up against all of our edges with that. Mandy says, for health reasons, I have to do very limited work in 2022, and I'm afraid my energy will limit me. Yeah, totally. I mean, listen, I think we'll talk about this too, but I think it's also about not deciding that anything has to stand in that way. Like, I think it would be easy for any of us, and all the different circumstances that, I don't know what's on my arm, all the different circumstances that we have presented to decide that there's a reason we can't have the thing, right? And that's what I want to talk about today, is like not talking yourself out of it already. So we will get into that as well. Elisa says, oh, I just saw your trailer for your new offer you were doing and so intrigued. Oh, so exciting. I'm so pumped about it. If you don't know what Elisa's talking about, it's in my Instagram stories. But we are doing something really different and exciting. We'll release more information about it, but really pumped for that too. Thank you so much for being excited. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about, I made like a few points here that I feel like are really, really important, but the absolute number one thing that I think is crucial here, if you want to receive more and more money and make more and more money, is that you have to believe your services are amazing and worthy of that compensation, right? And this is true at every level of business. Like if you've been in my value centered sales mastermind, you know that the first module is get sold on yourself first. That is like one of the principles I've been teaching in business for as long as I've basically been in business, which is this idea of you have to believe it is amazing. You have to believe you are worthy of receiving that money before you do. And what a lot of us do consciously and unconsciously is decide that we need to get that much to prove it to ourselves first, right? So it's like, I'll feel like my services are worthy of that once I make X, once someone pays me Y, once someone hires me at Z, right? And that is the biggest trap because it's very, very hard to let yourself receive something that you truly do not feel like you're providing a service that is worthy of that exchange, right? And that's why I talk about even energy exchange a lot too. Feeling like there's an even energy exchange happening is such a huge part of making more and more because it feels like, yes, this feels aligned, this feels true, this feels right, instead of like, oh my God, I really do not think someone is going to pay me this. I don't know if they should pay me that. Like, that's not the energy of receiving more. I get that we all get stuck there, but that's the edge to work because it is so hard for someone else to pay you a lot for your services when you do not fundamentally believe that your services are worth that, right? If we go by the philosophy that like everything is a mirror, well, if I'm saying, oh my God, I don't think it's worth that, hopefully someone pays me that so I can feel better, that's going to get mirrored to me all the time. It's not worth that. It's not worth that. Here's my financial objection. Here's this reason. Here's this challenge, right? It just becomes a mirror. And so doing your work on how you can get so sold on and invested, bought into, excited about, et cetera, your services is everything. Hey, Lucy. Oh, Leslie, you're excited too. Thank you. Maggie says, oh, that's so true. Yes, right? Mandy says, I struggle with the even energy piece and self-worth piece. Totally. And sometimes it's just good to see that, right? Like it can be really frustrating when we identify that, but it's also so helpful to be able to be like, oh, that's the piece. So I'm going to go through several pieces today. And I hope for each of you, there might be like a click in where you're like, ooh, that's it for me. Like I need to feel more sold on myself, or I need to work this edge. And that can feel frustrating, but it can also be really exciting because it shows you how to solve the right problem and where to put your time and effort. So if you know this one's hitting home, like, oh, damn, this is it. Like, I really struggle to charge my worth and to feel like my services are worthy of that. Well, all that gives you is a springboard for 2022, right? Like, all that gives you is information to go solve the right problem. And that's what is huge, because if you spend all of next year solving a different problem, like whatever, trying to like make your services more valuable or trying to find a different strategy or whatever, it could derail you for a very, very long time. But if you get really clear today on like that one, that's the edge for me, that just gives you so much to work with. And so don't let that feel discouraging, but let it feel really, really exciting to find that thing so you can leverage it next year again, instead of like almost sometimes I think, especially so we're about to come into January and our industry is about to pop with everyone telling you every single offer that they can give you to make this next year your best year ever. discernment is so important. So use this live stream for discernment, use it to figure out what might your thing be, what might you need support with, what might you need coaching with, where do you want to solve the right problem and put your focus next year? Because that will help so much, even if it feels frustrating in the moment to be like, oh, I have to work on this thing. Totally get it. But I promise it'll be so, so worth it. So that first one, getting sold on yourself first. Like, obviously, this is not a plug for everyone to do the partnership model. But for me, that's why I really, really, really love the partnership model, because the exchange feels so obvious and it's so easy for me to get really bought into that. Like, clients are paying me because they're making way more revenue, right? And so for me, it's so simple to feel like, oh yeah, of course, like we're totally at that point. We're totally, in even exchange, this is exactly what this is for. And so that has been a big help for me, I think, in just getting so sold on it, is that the tangibility of that is really, really helpful in seeing like, yes, this just makes sense. Like, you're making more, I'm making more, and the exchange feels really good there. But also this year, we capped our monthly percentage at $20K a month, which obviously I know sounds like astronomical. It's not like, $2,000 or something, but still, that was a decision I made around what felt like even energy exchange, and feeling like over that marker, I feel like I would really have to change how I was interacting and showing up in that business to feel really good about the exchange still. And so it's just finding those pieces for you, where it doesn't mean you always have to charge more and more forever and ever, no matter what. But it's like finding that place where you're like, I know I feel so good receiving this value. And if I don't, I know that I have work to do there. But it's not just about endlessly raising the rates. It's about really finding that sweet spot where it feels amazing to clients. And again, I think that's where partnership comes in for me, is that it just feels so obvious. And it feels like, yeah, like of course they want to pay more because they're making more and the exchange is there. So again, not that anyone has to do partnership, but just my personal experience, that's been really helpful this year. Lisa says, yes, I learned this year that even with mindset work, it's not about throwing spaghetti against the wall, but figuring out what I actually need at that moment. Hands down, 100% true. It's so easy to use mindset work to bypass stuff. It's to like, I know I need to work on this, but I'm going to be over here writing about whatever, like my house looks like that I'm going to move into next year. And so it's so true. Like with mindset too, we have to solve the right problem where it's really easy to bypass. Nisha says, can you speak a bit more to even energy exchange when you do more intangible work? There certainly are results, but different than money. Yeah, totally. I think it's just feeling like, do I feel like there's an exchange with what that result equates to? So it's like, what is the value of that in their life? You're probably already talking about that so much in your marketing. You probably know what the value of that is in their life, but even letting yourself tie a monetary amount to that and being like, oh my gosh, like whatever it is, like the value of feeling amazing in your body is absolutely astronomical. Like I feel so good about that exchange. So I think like, even with my work, like obviously the money is the factor that we use, but there's so much more to it than that makes me feel really good about what we're doing. And so I don't think it has to be money at all. I think it's really just about seeing like what they're putting out for what they're getting in return makes so much sense to me and to the client. And that's when it feels really good. Alessia says, I resonated. I struggled with it a lot this year, but what helped in the last few months, it really helped to remember to always separate my innate worth and the worth of my services that I'm selling. 100%. And value centered sales in our first thing, where it's get sold on yourself first. We do a worksheet that's like, how do you feel about your value in the business? Then how do you feel about your value in yourself? Because those have to be different things. And I think that's so helpful, Alessia. I so agree. Okay, so the next thing I think that is so important with receiving is trusting yourself really, really deeply. I feel like the number one thing that I think happens with a lot of entrepreneurs as they make more is that they don't trust what's on the other side of that, like a very real fear of success. And they don't trust themselves to handle what's on the other side of that or what comes with that. And it can really put you in resistance and make you push money, opportunities, that kind of thing away, because there is this inherent belief that like you won't be able to handle it. And listen, hard things are going to happen in business. Like there are plenty of things that have happened this year that weren't like rainbows and butterflies, but I really, really, really have worked deeply on my self-trust and believe that I will handle what comes up. And that's what allows me to receive more, because I believe that with more money, I will handle the responsibility that comes with it, the clients that come with it, the challenges that come with it, the good, the bad, all of that, right? And what stops us from that a lot is feeling like there is a threshold point where I can't trust myself over this amount, or I wouldn't be able to handle it, or something would happen that I couldn't deal with, whether that means like, people in your life start treating you different, or you think it means so many more clients will expect more, or whatever it is. There's probably something specific that you worry, could you handle it? And just really building self-trust around that, I think, is so important. Something I teach and talk about with my clients a lot is this idea of like, I won't always get it right, but I will always make it right. And that has been such a guiding light in my business, is that I don't have to do everything right. I don't have to get everything right. Like even with this new offer that we're talking about, that Elisa mentioned earlier, like, I don't know that I'll get it right. Like it's super new. It's super different. Fuck, TBD, right? But what I know for sure is I'll learn from it. I'll make it right, and I'll do whatever needs to happen to continue to feel good and in integrity with myself, and feel good and in integrity with my clients. That's the bottom line, right? And if you can trust that, everything else really does get easier. Leslie says, yes, I still have resistance of not controlling what happens on the other side of success. 100%. Yeah. Shari says, oh, shoot. Sorry, it keeps going that way. Definitely people in my life treating me differently. Yes, feel the resistance sometimes for sure. Yeah. Stephanie, don't worry. It was just like a little Instagram teaser. We haven't announced it. Yeah, and won't for just a little bit. So you didn't miss it. But yeah, so basically look at where you have built that trust, like build yourself an evidence bank already. Like, well, this happened and I handled it, or like this thing occurred and I like kept my word, or where can you find that evidence that you really can handle what comes? Because if you're here, you've handled every single thing that's happened to you in business up until this point, or in life up until this point. Like there is evidence there. You just have to go build your evidence bank of that and really start leaning into that. I think it's so easy to fear the unknown, right, out here. But what's amazing about doing that like evidence bank exercise is that it's all real and true and there, if that makes sense. Like it's not this like intangible thing in the future. It's like stuff that you can actually be like, oh, and this time this, and this time this, and this time this, right? Like I'll even pull stuff from before I had a business. Like so much of my self-trust was built when I worked in the nonprofit world and had difficult and challenging things happen there. And so look for where you really have that evidence. If like take the time this, kind of like hazy week between Christmas and New Year's and build yourself a book of evidence, of like, I've always handled this. Look how I like showed up for this. Look at the way I was in integrity there, right? That will give you a different level of confidence to start building on. And then my second recommendation would be, oh, perfect. Elisa says, what are some of the exercises you would recommend there? Hello. I got you. My second recommendation would be to find really small ways to build that with yourself too. I think, sometimes we're looking for these like big moments of like, oh, and then I did like the hardest thing ever, and that's how I know I can trust myself. And I think that personally, self-trust is usually built over many small moments and just keeping your word to yourself. And so what would that look like? Like, what is something you want to keep your word to yourself with, whether it's this week or next week or whatever? It could be as simple as like, I want to keep my word that I'm going to take a walk this week, or I want to keep my word that I'm going to do my mindset work every day. Like any of those things, if you can make a promise to yourself that feels doable, possible, exciting, and then you can fully show up and keep your word to yourself, you are literally brick by brick building your self-trust. You're showing yourself like, I keep my word, right? When I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And so of course I can trust more money because I can trust myself. Of course I can trust this coming in because if I say I can handle the money, I know I'll figure that out. So it's really just like this slow everyday process, I think, in some ways, but it can make a really, really, really big difference over time. Like even like, say you have clients and you just show up for them, like that is you being in integrity. That is self-trust. That is you keeping your word, right? Can you just acknowledge yourself for that every single day? Yes, keeping my word to myself, that's golden. Definitely need to do more of that. Totally. And I think the other thing I would say there too, Shari, is like, in my own experience, sometimes I used to make like wild promises that I like probably couldn't keep anyway, like, oh, I'll drink, X amount of water and I'll work out this many times and I'll do these things in my business and I'll do that. And like, build it up to a point where it's just so unrealistic and then not do it. And then it would deplete self-trust, right? And so like a big recommendation there is just keep it really simple. Don't get so caught up in like this New Year hype where now you have this like list of all these things you're supposed to do to like keep your word to yourself, because that really sets us up for failure, I think, a lot too. So for everyone listening, like just remember like that is helpful to an extent, but can also get really hard too when you're like, okay, I've made this huge list of promises to myself and now I have to keep every single one to know I trust myself. Like that can be just as harmful. So pick one small thing every day, pick one small, goal each week, whatever, build on that. Don't use it as like this weapon against yourself, right? Okay, cool. Yeah. Work on keeping it simple, 100%. Exactly. Okay. So the next piece is really interesting because I feel like trusting yourself, I think it's talked about a lot more than this one, but it is trusting others, especially to have built a 7-figure business. Like you don't get there not trusting others. You don't get there not trusting your team. You don't get there not trusting your clients, especially with the partnership model I have. You definitely don't get there not trusting clients, right? And so trusting yourself, I think, is step one, but from that springs trusting others. Like the reason I can trust others really deeply is because I trust myself to handle it, even if that doesn't always go perfectly. But this idea that like we get to bypass that, or that part of big growth and big receiving isn't trusting others, isn't the thing, right? Let me read comments and I'll go back to that. But Steph says, so true. It's such a challenge in the patience of waiting and keeping self-trust while clients haven't found you yet or made the commitment yet. You know how much you can change people's lives. You just need to remember that while you are in the waiting, you are still amazing, 100%. Obi says, yeah, totally agree with that point of building on top of what's working. Absolutely. So for the trusting others, like this is one of the reasons I do not subscribe to or love the term like self-made millionaire, because it was not self-made, right? It was definitely made through the support of team, the support of clients, the support of this community. Even if you've never bought from me, like it was made through the support of my husband, my family, my friend, like everyone, right? And so really being able to deeply trust others is such a big piece. Like there is no way my business would function in the way it does or make as money as it does if I did not deeply trust my team. And if I didn't deeply trust my clients. So one of the biggest questions I get asked whenever I tell people about the partnership is like, but how do you know they're reporting the right amount of money? How do you know someone's not lying? How do you know someone's not screwing you? All of this stuff. And I just really deeply trust that they're not. Like, I really believe in the 5 years that I've been testing this model in some way, shape, or form that I have never had anyone lie to me. Do I know for sure, like truth with a capital T, that that's true? No, I just have really chosen to do the mindset work to trust that, and to have that be my experience. And so it continues to be. I really don't think anyone has lied to me, but again, like, I can't ever know that for sure. I certainly have not audited anyone's books, or will not go back to do that. But the point is, there's so much there that has to happen. Like, I think we have between like 6 and 9 contractors on our team, depending on what you count or don't count, right? In fact, Megan and I are going to do a live on that because someone asked a really amazing question if we could just go through all of that. So we're going to do that in January. But like, I can't check everything that they're doing all day long and like, micromanage everything and be on top. Like, it would be impossible for me to serve the clients I'm serving and make the money I'm making while completely micromanaging my team, completely not being in trust there. It would be impossible for me to have the amount of clients I had if I wanted to audit all of their books all the time, if I was worried that they were lying to me. Like, the business would literally crack around the edges, right? Because I would not have the time, because I would be trying to control it all myself. I would not have the trust. I would feel anxious all the time. And it would be really, really hard to build because I would always be chasing like that next piece. And so just really wanted to say that trust others piece, because I feel like, we do so much work in this space and in our industry to feel empowered, to be in self-trust and all of that. But I think this conversation around like your team, your community, your clients, your support system at home all builds your business, and being deeply in trust of that is some of the most important work we can do. Like, yes, we are building this ourselves. And I'm so proud of like the me, 6 years ago who did this. But again, like, she wasn't the only one who built this. And so just like keeping that perspective, I think, is really important, because it reminds us like how important like the village is, so to speak, right? Like, I've been thinking about that a lot being pregnant as well. Like, I don't want all that to be on me. I want it to take a village. You know what I mean? Like, this is how we make things happen and get through things. And so just a reminder that so valuable to not only trust yourself so much, but trust yourself enough that you can trust other people too. Alyssa says, yes. Oh, yes. I also feel like what you focus on expands, right? Hello. When you're so worried about clients not being truthful, you'll eventually create that. Yeah, it's a mirror, right? Hey, Jen. It's so hard to give up control, but it's so freeing so you can grow. Best decision I made was to get a coach and add a team member. Yeah, totally. This is the stuff that frees up your time to do the thing you're really good at, but it's so beyond freeing up your time. It's freeing up your mental energy and capacity. Like, I could have a team that was freeing up my time, but if my energy was always on being in distrust, et cetera, like, it would go there. I would create that circumstance, and it would take up a lot more of my energy and mental bandwidth. And it would be really easy to get in that story. So really important. So true. I honestly see that in my dad's small business and how many problems he had with employees not behaving well and him expecting them to betray him. Yeah, that's so tough. And it's so hard because it's so like hamster wheelish, right? It's like you kind of assume that, and then someone does it and it feels like confirmation. And so it just becomes this wheel that's really hard to get off of. It's so true. Thank you for that example, Alessia. Happy holidays, Jennifer. All right, cool. So next thing is, none of y'all will be surprised with this one, but it's an important one. Knowing there's not some big secret and nothing standing in your way, and that it's okay if it takes time, right? So being really careful not to make a ton of meaning in all of that is so important. Like, we are 6 years into business hitting 7 figures. Like, I couldn't have told you 3 years ago that we were for sure going to do that. 3 years ago, I think we made 500K 3 years ago, right? So at that point, I was like, well, shit, we'd have to double. I don't know. Like, does that make sense? Like, it never looks like it's going to work until it does most of the time. And I think that there's such a fallacy that like everyone else is out there just like knowing it's going to work and sees the exact path and knows for sure. And you're the only one who doesn't. And it's just not true. And I feel like is such an important myth and secret to bust in this industry, which is why I talk about it all the time. There are just some people that are marketing in a way that tells you they know more or have the secret, but no one really knows for sure. There's no possible way I could have known 3 years ago that no matter what, this would happen. COVID hadn't even like happened yet, right? Like there was so much that occurred in the past couple years. There was so much that changed in my life in the past couple years. Like this year obviously was a really big year in our business, but I also got married and also have been pregnant half the year. Like so many things changed, right? And so just remembering, like, if you are sitting here going, oh, I can't see how I'd ever make 7 figures, like someone else must know something I don't. No, like, do not try to hack that in that way of being like, okay, so then I just have to be around someone that's made 7 figures and they will give me the secret or the whatever. Like, maybe it just takes a little more time, or it takes some more building, or it takes, you stepping into yourself more, doing some of this mindset work, or tweaking things along the way as you learn. Like, I don't know. It depends for everyone, right? I've helped multiple clients go 0 to 7 figures now, and no like click-in was the same for any of them, right? And their the secret that clicked for them wasn't the same as what clicked for me or whatever. So I think it's just really important to say that, because again, we're about to step into the season of marketing where everyone will tell you that they have the secret, and if you just do it their way, and if you just follow their thing and whatever, that will be that. And it's the quickest way to give up trust in yourself, and quite honestly, to give up trust in other people too, because then if it doesn't work, not only did you erode trust in yourself, but you eroded trust in others. So yes, get support, yes, get help, but please do not go into January buying from that lens of like, who has this secret that I don't, but more like, who is going to help me navigate this path. And then I think there's also this internal thing that we do to ourselves where we think somebody that's making whatever, what we want to make, $1 million or whatever, has something we don't. And until we change that in ourselves, we can't get there. So it's like they're more put together, or they're more organized, or they're more strategic, or they're smarter, or they're prettier, or they're like younger, older, like literally fucking anything, right? And then we set up these barriers in our mind, like, I can't have that because I can't get there until I can't have that, like, without fixing this. And those barriers, in my opinion, are the biggest thing keeping those people stuck in our space, is because they really think that there is something inherently missing or wrong in them. And that story just keeps that truth coming alive, right? Well, I can't have that because I'm not more organized. And, your wish is my command. Like, you can't have that. Like, that is so insidious, and it's so easy to get really locked into, because again, we're told that in our space all the time. Like, if you could just get more organized, you could have the pretty shiny thing I have over here, right? And it makes you believe that something in you can't have that. And if I, again, look at self and many of the clients that I've helped hit multiple 6, 7, even multiple 7 now figures at this point, they just stopped believing that there was a reason they couldn't have it, right? They all had different work to do around that. They had different ways of looking at that, but they simply stopped believing they couldn't have it. And I know that sounds really simplistic, but I promise you, if you do some mindset work on this, I guarantee you there are plenty of stories in your brain playing out, telling you why you can't have that or be that or do that, right? And that is the trap. Yes to that. Lindsay says, hi, happy holidays, everyone. Late as usual. Totally fine. Hi, Linz. Elisa says, yes, I have done at least 10 IG reels about there is no secret. 100%. It's just so tempting to get caught up in that. Like, personally, I obviously believe that support is insanely valuable, but I think distilling it down to like, because one thing worked for Lacey, it will work for you and I'll just tell you it and then it'll work is like the most ridiculous thing of all time if you actually spend any time at all thinking about that or comparing that to how other things in the world or business work. So anyway, like there isn't. But yeah, like we just have to stop believing that there is something in us that can't have that. Hey, Melanie, Elisa says, oh, I love how Julie talks about being lazy. It's so permission giving, right? Like, and the thing with her, she didn't have to stop being lazy. She just had to stop believing that being lazy was going to prevent her from making millions, right? So the same with me, I just had to stop believing that because I wanted to focus on one-on-one, that it was going to stop me from making the million. Like I had to like eradicate that from my brain because in this space, it would be the easiest thing in the world to get caught up in that. I could never make 7 figures on just one-on-one. I could never make 7 figures. I'd have to figure something else out. Like that could have been such a prevalent story I told myself for the last 5 years or whatever. And I guarantee you I wouldn't be sitting here telling you I made over $1 million this year. I had to stop believing that that had to be in my way. And I had to start believing that could be part of my success. And same with the Julia example. Not only is the lazy thing not in her way, she literally has a 6-figure income stream off a program titled lazy. I mean, it's titled lazy pleasure, but like lazy is the first word in the title. Like she stopped believing that that prevented her from getting it. And not only could she get it anyway, but now she could make it part of it. And like, same for me with one-on-one, right? It's like, not only is that not the thing that prevented me from getting what I want, it's been the absolute foundation, most integral part of this success. And so whatever your thing is, like, how do you take back the narrative around that and decide that not only might it not be the thing in your way, it might be the exact thing that gets you what you want. Yes, Manisha says, love that so much. No longer believing you can't have it. 100%. Elisa says, again, do you have a good mindset exercise you'd recommend here? I feel like this one is kind of simplistic, but it's just getting really familiar with those thoughts and being willing to question them. Like, I think that you have to get familiar with what you're actually thinking all the time to know what would have to be different. And so it became very clear to me early on in my business that a thought that was like starting to insert itself was, you can't have a 7-figure business on one-on-one. And as soon as I realized how pervasive that thought was becoming, I realized how much work I had to do there to rewrite it. So every time that thought was coming up, I was challenging it more. I was creating a new story around it. I was building new affirmations and truth around that and getting really, really locked in on that. And so kind of like with the self-trust thing where it's like brick by brick, I think this is the same. There's probably not going to be one mindset thing you do where you're like, that's it. That thing is not in my way anymore. It's probably going to be a lot of noticing and repetition. And, obviously, in my opinion, like great coaching to help you remember that and see that, because, it's just so easy to fall into that trap. I feel like it's like one of the number one things I do with my clients is just challenge those thoughts for them that say, I can't have this because, right? And I'm like, yeah, no, that, that doesn't make sense. And that's not true. What is happening here? So you can certainly do that for yourself, right? But you can also get support that will do that for you as well. Because again, sometimes we don't even realize that thought because it feels like truth. I can't scale with just one-on-one could feel like it's just a factual truth versus a thing that was keeping me stuck. And so just being willing to find those things and question them. And again, this could be like a beautiful week to just dive into that and do that and just ask yourself, like, what stories am I already telling myself about my success, about next year, about what's coming that maybe feel true, but I could question, and that would be really powerful. So the last thing I want to share, and then I'll kind of recap all of them, is, I know it's the cheesy one, but stick with me, which is gratitude for all of the receiving along the way. Not just when you hit the 7 figures. Like, I really will give myself just a nice little pat on the back here and say, the thing that I think I have done the best in this journey is I have celebrated the shit out of myself every single year, even when like it wasn't like the number that like, you know, so-and-so made in our industry, or even when a lot of my clients were making a lot more money than me, or even when I owned it, I celebrated it personally, I celebrated it with my audience, I made it a big deal, I made it a thing, and I really leaned into gratitude for every single bit of it along the way, to the point where this year felt kind of inevitable to me. I think I started saying that this was going to be our $1 million year last year. And it just felt so inevitable because I had been really celebrating everything. And I think like the gratitude and celebration piece can feel really cheesy, but it's like the most nervous system regulating, self-trust building mindset hack that I know of, because it hits every level. Like, it's really, really, really hard to be in fight or flight mode when you're in gratitude and celebrating. It's really, really, really hard to make yourself wrong when you're in gratitude and celebrating. It's really, really, really hard to not trust yourself when you're in gratitude and celebrate. Like, it is the best hack. It truly is. And it is the thing that we are so unlikely to do because it feels so simplistic, or it feels like an eye roll, or for a lot of my clients, it will feel like, but this wasn't what I wanted, so how can I celebrate it? Like, aren't I like being in mediocrity, or aren't I settling, or aren't I giving up my desires if I celebrate this thing, even if it wasn't like the big thing I really want? And I totally get that. Like, as a high performer, a high achiever, like, we're so conditioned to want more, right? We're so conditioned to see the next mountain and like be ready to climb it. But in my opinion, like, it will never, ever keep you from getting more if you want to celebrate what you have. Like, if anything, it's the total opposite. The more you beat yourself up for not having hit that goal or not having hit fast enough, the more you're eroding trust in yourself, trust in others, the more you're going to jump strategies, the more you're going to have trouble seeing it through, the more you're not going to believe in things working. Like, there's so many like things that come from that seem like, oh, well, it'll just fire me up more, but it really doesn't. Like, I'm fired up 100 times more when I'm in celebration and gratitude and excitement than when I'm in self-flagellation. Do you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't really motivate me. That makes me want to like sit on the couch with my head under a blanket, not in the like yummy introverty way, but in the like, oh, I'm frozen kind of way. Right. Oh yeah. Louise says that's the one I need to work on most, having gratitude and celebrating the tiniest wins. Yes, absolutely. Melanie says celebrate, celebrate, celebrate. Alessia says I'm very tuned into gratitude, but I want to celebrate more next year in fun ways. 100%. Like, I think just the act like of doing it, something I talk to my clients a lot about is bringing physicality to things. So like, if they want to like destroy a limiting belief or something like that, like, I'll usually challenge them to like do a ritual or burn it or something that feels like a physical representation of that. And I think celebration is the same thing. Like, in our heads, we can be like, good job, right? But like, this physical representation of it, I think, is so important. This is just like such a silly thing, but that's what these 2 bracelets represent to me. Like, I got them both at really special celebratory times in my life. And they feel like the physical representation of that. And it's really important for me to have that reminder. So whatever that is for you, whether it's like a glass of champagne or something you're going to wear, or, you know, just a dinner that you're going to remember, or whatever it is, like having that moment to really sit in that versus just being like, oh, cool, grateful, moving on, is important. It like really brings it to life. It gives it that groundedness. It brings it into the physical world. And I think that's really important. Yeah. Lisa says, yes, so true. And I'm celebrating. It's working. I feel so pumped to keep going. Exactly. Like, it's so funny how we think the opposite is true. And I think it's just a cultural thing is if I feel bad enough, then I'll do something different. And again, I've been a therapist for a long time. I've been a coach for a long time. I've never seen someone that's just like really felt so shitty that it motivated them to like get this huge result. I've seen people where they get sick of their own bullshit and are ready to make it change. And I think that's great. Like, I think that's important. But that idea of like, if I shame myself enough, I'll do something different, I really don't think ever works. So find the celebrations and use that energy to propel you forward, because that's when you're in receiving mode, right? Like, I also think this is, and I'm going to digress for like a second, but this is like that magnetic energy everyone's talking about, like how to be magnetic in your copy and all of this stuff. It's like, for me, like the magnetism comes when I'm really excited and in celebration of myself. And it's just easy to go out there and show that. It is really hard to be magnetic, right? i.e. in energy that pulls people in and attracts, when secretly I'm beating myself up like crazy. And then I'm like, but where's the person that like wants to hire me? Well, again, like back to that first point I made, it's really, really hard for someone to pay you what you don't think you're worth. It's really, really hard for someone to hire you when you're thinking how bad you suck, you know? And I know you might not be thinking that you suck at your work, but there's still this like energy about it. Like, I suck at my business, but I really, really, really want someone to pay me at my business. Like, you have to find the one beautiful thing to be like, but I'm so good at serving in this way, or I'm so proud of myself for this. Like, I'm not saying you have to celebrate every single thing in your business, but I'm saying if you can find those few nuggets that you can really get behind celebrating, that fully changes your energy. And it fully changes how people are attracted to you and show up for you, which then of course goes back to what we're talking about, which is it lets you receive more because you're drawing people in that are really, really into this, right? And are into your energy. Like, I think you hear a lot of people say that, like, oh, people are just buying my energy. That's what they mean, right? They're just in a really, really good energy, and people are just like attracted to that and want that. It's not about like how I wrote words in my copy. It's about like, what am I bringing to the table, right? Again, I think that's why partnership works for us, because I'm so bought into that, excited about it. I can talk about it all day. I like love everything about it. I celebrate it. I've celebrated it every single year. I've always been massively proud of that. And I truly believe like that's what brings people into us. That's what keeps clients with us. That's what makes them want to stay, is that energy, right? Of course, it's our work together and all of the like juiciness of that. But like what I'm saying is the energetic piece is so key. So it's not to say, oh, you can never feel bad and that will repel everyone, but it is to say that you doing the work to feel really good and in celebration of yourself and not making yourself wrong all the time, ironically, is what makes other people drawn to you. It's not fixing all the things that are wrong with you that makes other people drawn to you. Do you see what I mean? How like fucked that can be? And again, our industry tells us, fix all the things that are wrong with you and then people will buy from you. Full of shame, full of guilt, makes you keep buying and spending money. Or decide things aren't wrong with you. Celebrate yourself. Own that. Celebrate every win. Create a narrative around that in your business. Get excited about it. Don't just own it with yourself. Own it with your audience. Bring physicality to it. All of that. And then more comes. Like, do you see how one is just so much easier than the other and puts you in a place of like the stuff that is so nourishing to your body and your nervous system and all of that. And one puts you back in guilt and shame and like gives you all these extra barriers you have to overcome to move forward, right? Hey, Claire. Nikki says, just catching up on this. I need to watch from the beginning. So needed to hear this. Oh, I'm so glad it was exactly what you needed. That makes me so happy. So I think that's just really important to say. Like, I love this industry so much. I'm so grateful for it every single day of my life. Like, it is the best thing that has happened to me. And there are some really like gnarly and challenging parts of it that tell us like someone else is better than us because they've made more money. And if we just fix ourselves so that we are like them or have the things they have or whatever, then we'll be good. Then we'll make the money. Then we can celebrate. That narrative is what is keeping most people stuck, right? So I really just want to say like that this isn't like a vilification of the coaching industry by any means. It's really just this idea of be discerning and pay attention to where you feel the most celebrated, where you feel the most lit up, where you feel the most permission to be who you are and where you're at, and gravitate towards those things more. When you're feeling like you're not where you need to be or don't have something like right about you or whatever, gravitate away from those spaces. Like that's so simple, but so hard to do. And like just practicing that discernment, I think is so important to being able to receive overall, because again, we can't keep telling ourselves that, you know, we're fucked up or we're missing something or we can't celebrate our goals or whatever, and then be like magically surprised when $1 million shows up, right? Like what really happens is we start believing that it can be ours and that all this stuff isn't standing in our way, and we start feeling really good and in celebration of ourselves. And then it shows up as a natural outpouring of that, right? Not because I beat myself up so much along the way to get there, you know? And I think the other thing that's sort of funny, and I just want to say this for context, is like people will follow like 4 people in our industry or something and think because those people are ahead of them or made money faster than them or whatever, that officially means there's something wrong with them. Well, so-and-so did this, or she made this much this year, and so something's wrong with me if I'm not. But it's like 4 people in an industry of like, God, I mean, how many people are probably in this coaching space at this point? Hundreds of thousands. Do you know what I mean? And we're like picking 4 to make us feel really shitty about ourselves, or to somehow define that there's something wrong with us. Stop doing that shit. Knock it off, right? Like we have to tell our brains no to that. Like, yes, celebrate those people, use them as inspiration, but please do not think that like because 1% of 1% of our industry or space has done a thing, that because you haven't yet, it means something about you, right? And again, that's where we block receiving, you know? And so the comparison game, I think obviously is just a really, really big one in our space because everyone's shit is in our face all the time. And, you know, there's some really, really, really good things about that. And there are some tough things about that. But just again, a reminder, like receiving comes when you feel good enough to let it in. And anything that's making you feel not good enough to let it in, that's what you have to play with. That's what you have to eradicate. That's what you get to lean into and work on, right? It's not make yourself better. It's remove the things that say you're not good enough. Does that make sense? Okay, Elisa says, loving all those reminders. Thank you for sharing. Definitely going to do some journaling on some of those. So good. Anna said, so glad you're saying this. Thank you. You're so welcome. So hope this was just like a little pep talk to start your 2022 and to remind you not to enter into things in 2022 from a place of I am not good enough, worthy enough, and I need to get this thing to fix that. Because again, like the barrage of information will start, and having discernment around that is going to be so, so, so helpful to receiving more next year, but also receiving from a place that just feels really, really good. So I hope that helps. I hope that's a good reminder. Remember, if you commented today, you're going to be entered to win a $100 gift card. I said MSC bundle in the email, my mistake. If you want that and you win, you can have that too, whatever you want. And what else do I have to say? Yeah, I do have something exciting coming soon. It is probably nothing anybody is thinking it is, but I'm excited to hear what your guesses are. We put out a little teaser on Instagram, but we'll announce it in just a little while. And yeah, just excited to share that with you. And I think very much aligns to what we're talking about today. Like that thing that I'm doing just feels really fun and exciting to me. And hopefully it just gets to feel really fun and exciting to the person who decides it's for them. And that's that. It doesn't have to be because someone needs like fixing or whatever. It's because someone wants support. And so I hope that is just a reminder as well. And I'm excited to get to share all that with y'all. So go jump over to my stories and give me a guess of what you think it is. And otherwise, I hope that you have a very, very happy new year. I hope this supports you. Hope it gives you some ideas for mindset pieces to dive into and look at this week as you plan for your next year. And I'm just so thankful for this community. Again, even if you have just been part of this community or come to a live stream, whether you've bought from me or not bought from me or have been a client or not been a client, like all of us built this together, in my opinion. And I am just so grateful to you and so happy to be celebrating this big milestone of ours with you. And I hope every one of you know how thankful I am. So hope that you guys have a beautiful new year. I love you all. Bye.